Hey there, I'm Graham Fife, and I'm going to be talking about how I got this shot of all these cute little Santa's helper elves. They're all building toys. Look at them, they're all so busy. Now this looks like a really complicated shot, but it's not. Really, there's only one elf, and he's building toys. Everything else is achieved using HD Instance version 2. So let's look at my setup. Here's the elf in layout, and he's just got a looping animation. And we'll be instancing him with randomized offsets on the animation. So the reason we have it looped is that some of these elves will start over here, someone will start over here, and they have to be able to loop around to give the illusion that he's continuously working. So let's bring in an object that we can use to position some instances for our little elf. So I'm going to load my object that I prepared. This object has a bunch of polygons, and we're going to put one elf on each polygon. And each polygon has a shorter edge, and we can tell the instances to point towards the shortest edge. That allows us to place, right here we have several hundred polygons. Very easily we could arrange them in whatever pattern we want. So let's select the object with these polygons, add the HD Instance custom object, and we'll add the elf as an object to be cloned. Now if I just do that and turn on some preview bounding boxes, we can see we're getting a whole bunch of elves. I want them to be placed on these polygons, but currently they're on the vertices. So let's set the density type to polygons, and the rotation to point at the shortest edge. So now all of my elves are pointing towards the shortest edge. Now let's go to our camera view, and let's manipulate the camera a little bit to get a better view of what's going on here. A whole lot of elves. So in order to render, I need to apply the HD Instance volumetric plugin. Now I can render a frame. So we see the original Lightwave object. Here's our polygons. You can see the elves are casting shadows because I have radiosity. And here's all of our instance elves. Now a couple things to note here. All of the elves are in the same position. We're going to fix that by using a baked motion file so we can have randomized animation. The other thing to notice is that the elves all have different colored hats and shirts. We got those hats and shirts, for example, the hat, by applying the HD Instance shader plugin and giving a gradient. The gradient tells Lightwave which colors to choose from, and it randomly chooses one of these colors for each instance. That's pretty handy for this kind of thing. Now let's see about giving these elves some random animation. I'd like to render this elf at subdivision level of 1. So let me set the view subdivision level to the same level that I want to render, and then I can bake a motion file. So we select the HD Instance Motion Scanner plugin, enter the frame range we want and the file name we want. I'm going to call this elf working and hit OK. And it will go ahead and do that. Now, that takes a little while to bake out that file, but you only need to do that once for your animation. Now, I've already prepared a file earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that. So let me select my instancing object here, go back to the HDInstance panel, and under the Motion tab, select Use Motion, and then choose the motion file that I baked out earlier. And now I want to tell HDInstance to choose a random frame. So there's options on how it chooses these frames. I'd like it to select a frame offset between 0 and the last frame. And I don't want to change the speed of the animation, so I'm leaving the frame scale at 1. So now if I render a frame, we can see that all of the elves are going to have a different position. There, I've skipped ahead to the end of the render, but we can see it took 37 seconds to render a D1 frame. That's pretty respectable, and all the elves are doing their own thing now. They're not all duplicates of the same original elf. Now all these elves need a workstation, and we have one original workstation. So let's instance that. I'm going to apply another HDInstance custom object plugin to our instancing object. And this time I'm going to add the workstation object, and still the same polygon mode and point at shortest edge rotation mode. The workstation doesn't move, so I don't need any of this motion stuff. Now he's also got a toy, and behind his workstation, you can't see it in this frame, but he has a screwdriver. So I'm also going to instance these. Since we've already got some instance plugins here, I can just copy it and then paste on another copy of that. And now I can just change the settings. So instead of instancing the elf, I'll instance the toy car. And the motion, since the toy car does not deform, it only rotates and moves, I don't need a motion file. I'm just going to turn that off, and I'll keep the same randomized offsets. Now this is another powerful feature of HDInstance. Even without a motion file, you can see that these instances are all moving separately using the randomized motion offsets. So let me copy that and paste it again, and instead of instancing the toy car, I'm going to instance the screwdriver, and again, no motion file. I'm just using the randomized offsets. Now the last thing we need to do to make a nice clean render is hide the original Lightwave objects. So let's go in and set their dissolve levels to 100. This is a nice way to hide them, because they'll disappear from the OpenGL view as well as from the renders. I'm also going to hide the polygon object that I'm using to place the instances. And there's another layer there I'm not using. I'll just delete that. So let's do one more render. Alright, again I skipped ahead. Now notice this time it took 23 seconds. That's mostly because we got rid of the original objects. And if we take a look at the render, we see every elf has his own little toy car, and every elf has his own little screwdriver. Aren't they cute? And there you have it. That's how we can get a fancy looking shot in what actually only takes a few minutes to set up, and get a spectacular result. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you later.